Welcome to the deep dive. Today we have a story that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a Cold War spy novel.
It really does.
We're talking high-altitude mountaineering, covert espionage, and a radioactive mystery that's been buried for decades.
Literally buried.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack this whole 60-year saga of the lost nuclear generator of Nanda Devi. We're going to trace it from, the secret planning back in the 60s all the way to late 2025 when this whole thing just blew up again.
It's an unbelievable story. I mean, you have a team of the most elite climbers, American and Indian.
Yeah.
And they're tasked with leaving a working nuclear generator on India's second highest mountain.
And they get caught in a blizzard and have to leave it behind.
Exactly. They plan to come back for it, but when they do, the whole thing, all 57 kilograms of it, is just gone, swallowed by the mountain.
And we need to be clear, this isn't just some piece of lost gear. This is the SNIP-19C generator. It's powered by 7 capsules of plutonium-238. So for 60 years, it's been sitting up there, or, well, moving, inside a glacier, a kind of mobile, dirty bomb.
And to understand why anyone thought this was a good idea, you really have to put yourself in the mindset of the mid-1960s.
This all starts with a major global power shift, right?
It does. The single biggest catalyst was October 1964. That's when China successfully detonates its first nuclear bomb in Xinjiang.
And that created a huge intelligence gap for the West.
A massive one. The U.S. and its allies, including India, desperately needed to know what China was planning with its missile program.
But this was before the kind of satellite surveillance we have today. You couldn't just, point a camera from space and get what you needed.
Exactly right. The eyes and ears needed to be on the ground. Or in this case, very high up on the ground.
Which led to this incredibly risky, covert alliance between the CIA and India's intelligence bureau.
A plan to basically use one of the highest peaks in the world as a listening post.
And this was Operation HAT.
That's the one. The mission was to install this remote sensing station on Nanda Devi, up around 24,000 feet. And its whole purpose was to intercept telemetry signals from Chinese missile tests. Data on trajectory, performance, all the good stuff.
Top-tier intelligence.
The highest.
Yeah.
This wasn't some rogue operation. This was approved to the very top. We're talking people like U.S. Air Force General Curtis LeMay, senior Indian officials. The pressure to make it work was just immense.
So that brings us to the climb itself. They had to haul this whole setup up one of the most dangerous mountains in the world.
The payload was just colossal.
Right.
The generator alone was 57 kilos. And that was the most dangerous part, the SNF-19C.
So SNIP stands for Systems for Nuclear Auxiliary Power. Let's pause on that because the tech here is the key to the whole environmental threat later on.
It really is. This device, an RTG, a radioisotope thermoelectric generator, it's not a nuclear reactor. It doesn't use fission.
Okay, so how does it work?
It's much simpler and in some ways more persistent. It just uses the passive decay heat from a radioactive isotope.
Plutonium-238.
Exactly. P-238 gives off incredible steady heat as it decays. The RTG converts that heat directly into electricity, but its half-life is almost 88 years.
Meaning it stays dangerously hot for centuries.
And critically, it's always hot. It generates that heat no matter what the external conditions are. That's its power source, but it's also, its fatal flaw in this story.
So October 1965, the team, led by the legendary Captain M.S. Coley, starts the ascent with this radioactive cargo. They get to Camp Tour, about 24,000 feet. The summit is almost there.
They've done the hardest part, but then the mountain just turns on them. A massive, out-of-nowhere blizzard hits.
Whiteout conditions, temperatures dropping.
And they have to make a choice, a terrible choice.
Risk their own lives to protect the device or secure it and get down the mountain alive.
They chose survival. Our sources say they wedged the generator on a rock shelf, covered it as best they could, and retreated. The plan was always to come back in the spring of '66 and finish the job.
I can't imagine the weight of that decision. Leaving a live nuclear device on a mountaintop.
A weight that must have turned into just sheer horror when they came back the next May.
And it was gone.
Completely vanished. The team climbs back up to Camp 3, ready to get to work, and the rock shelf is just bare. The snow from the winter had melted, but the generator was nowhere.
A 57-kilogram piece of secret radioactive tech disappears off a cliff. What were the theories?
There were 2 main ideas. The first one was an avalanche. That some massive snowslide just came down and swept the generator off the shelf, burying it deep, deep under ice and rock.
Which is bad, but at least it's contained, maybe.
Maybe. But the second theory is far more unsettling, and it goes back to the tech we were talking about, the melt-through hypothesis.
Because the plutonium is always hot.
Always hot.
Ugh.
So the theory is the generator literally melted its way through the ice and snow it was sitting on. It just sank down through the snowpack until it hit the bottom of the glacier.
Where it would then just start moving with the ice flow.
Exactly. Slowly moving downstream encased in ice.
And they searched for it, right. Between 1966 and 1968?
They did. Multiple secret missions, using special neutron detectors to try and find the plutonium signature. And they found nothing. Total failure.
Which is wild because they successfully planted and later retrieved a similar device on the nearby peak, Nanda Devi.
They did. That mission went off without a hitch. But the Nanda Devi generator, it was just gone. Consumed by the mountain.
And this whole thing, this massive secret, stays classified for more than 10 years.
Until 1978. A leak in the U.S. media blows the whole story wide open. The pressure mounts, and the Indian Prime Minister at the time, Morarji Desai, has to stand up in Parliament and admit it all happened.
And once the secret is out, the conversation shifts. It's not just a lost spy device anymore. It's a ticking environmental time bomb.
A really serious one. The plutonium capsules are built to last for centuries, but, they're not indestructible. The fear is that the constant grinding of the glacier, the abrasion, the water, it could eventually break them down.
Or crush them into powder.
Or corrode them. And if that happens, if that containment is breached, you get plutonium-238 dust washing right into the Rishi Ganga River.
And why is the Rishi Ganga so important? For listeners who don't know the region.
It's a major headwater of the Ganges. Contaminate the source, and you are contaminating the water supply for hundreds of millions of people downstream. This isn't something you can just clean up. Plutonium contamination is a multi-generational crisis.
I think the analogy from one of our sources really captures the problem here.
It's a perfect analogy. They call it a toxic needle in a shifting haystack made of ice.
The haystack, the glacier, is always moving, melting, changing. You can't predict where the needle is or when it might surface.
But the needle itself just stays lethal.
And we've seen this history pop up in modern events. February 2021, there was that terrible flash flood in the Chamoli district.
Right. And while the official scientific explanation was a glacier collapse or a landslide, the locals immediately started talking about the loss of ice.
They thought the heat from the generator could have been the trigger.
They did. Villagers, local politicians. They openly wondered if that constant heat had destabilized the ice and caused the disaster. It just shows how this secret is still very much alive in the region.
Okay, so let's fast forward to late 2025. This story, which had kind of faded into history, suddenly explodes back into the headlines. What happened?
An accidental discovery, really. The private archives of Barry Bishop, one of the original American climbers, were found in a garage in Montana.
And these weren't just journals.
No, these were operational records. They contained two explosive things. First, really precise maps of where they left the device, much more detailed than anything released before.
And second.
The second, and this is the crucial part for geopolitics, was proof of the full extent of U.S. military involvement. Memos, communications. It confirmed that General LeMay had signed off and that the CIA had accepted long-term responsibility for the device.
So an old environmental problem suddenly becomes a live political weapon.
Instantly. The sleeping device is wide awake. China immediately starts hammering the U.S. for environmental negligence.
Right.
They're demanding transparency, wanting to know who's on the hook for the cleanup.
And Pakistan jumps in, too.
Of course. Pakistan uses it to question India's ability to secure nuclear materials in a sensitive region. They argue, if you lost one 60 years ago, how can we trust your safety protocols now?
And what about inside India?
Huge domestic pressure. There's a massive religious pilgrimage, the Nanda Devi Raj Jat, planned for 2026. And the government is now facing public anxiety about whether the water sources along the route are safe.
Yeah.
It's a political nightmare for them.
So as of right now, late 2025, where is the toxic needle? What's the status?
It's still missing. The good news, if you can call it that, is that water monitoring in the Ganges hasn't shown any catastrophic radiation spikes.
Yeah.
Yet. But the primary concern, based on that melt-through theory, is that it's still moving. Downstream, inside the glacier, the clock is ticking, and climate change is probably speeding it up.
So this whole deep dive, it's taken us from the pressure of the Cold War, this rush to plant a spy gadget, to a secret that gets swallowed by nature, only to reemerge as this huge environmental and political problem today.
Exactly. The big takeaway for you listening to this is really the permanence of this kind of nuclear legacy, the sheer longevity of this material versus the slow, unstoppable power of a glacier.
Which leaves us with a pretty terrifying final thought.
It does. I mean, considering the device is still in there, still moving, what's going to be the critical moment? Will it be rapid glacial melt due to climate change, finally exposing it? Or will it be the sheer pressure of the ice grinding it against the bedrock until it fractures? That's the real question. When, and more importantly, how, does the toxic needle finally get out of the haystack?
A profound and unsettling question to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.